want to take this time to thank you for joining us at our Building Tomorrow's Leaders Center for Public Policy Political Studies Austin Community College event. Without our sponsors, this could not be possible. I want to thank our platinum sponsor, Flintco Construction, for generously contributing to supporting our students at the Austin Community College in enriching their lives through our work at the center. My name is Rob Reyes. I am a trustee of Pflugerville ISD, but I'm also the chair of the Center for Public Policy and Political Studies. We provide enriching experiences for the students of Austin Community College to be involved in government and politics, and we try to help expose them to internship programs, and we have many events throughout the year that we do at the college to enhance their experience. I'd like to recognize some of the elected officials that are here. I'm going to start with the Board of Trustees of the Community College who support our efforts. I'm going to start with the chair, the Honorable Dr. Vic Villarreal. The vice chair, Mr. Alan Kaplan. In attendance, we also have Dr. Betty Wong. We also have Mark Williams. And Gigi Edward Bryant. Thank you for all that you do to support us and make this happen. We have other elected officials in the room, and if I miss your name, I apologize. There are many people here who, I'm going to start with someone who I know is here because I invited her. She's the chair of my board and recently reelected to the Pflugerville ISD school district. That would be Miss Virgin Mott. Caldwell County Commissioner Alfredo Munoz. Former ACC trustee Rafael Quintanilla. Tax assessor and collector Bruce Elfant. Former mayor of Austin Bruce Todd. Former ACC trustee John Hernandez. Senator Gustavo Barrientos. And the Reverend Dr. Jamie Mathias, AISD trustee. If I fail to recognize someone, will they please stand, and when I see you, I will recognize you. All right. Well, it's my honor to introduce to you today the president and CEO of Austin Community College, a college on the cutting edge of accelerated student completion and enhancing success. Dr. Rhodes joined ACC in 2011 after serving as president of El Paso Community College. He is a leader in higher education in Texas and the nation, endlessly working to improve the systems and grow partnerships throughout the communities he serves. Dr. Rhodes is a native to New Mexico and a Texan by choice. He received a Bachelor of Business Administration and Accounting and Master's of Arts in Education Management and Development from New Mexico State University. He earned his doctorate through the Community College Leadership Program at the University of Texas at Austin. Waiting for the hook'em. All right. And was honored with its Distinguished Graduate Award. He is the current chair of the Texas Association of Community Colleges and serves on numerous state and national committees. Dr. Rhodes was most recently appointed by former Governor Perry to serve on the Texas Workforce Investment Council. Dr. Rhodes is active in his community, serving as the chair of the board for American Youth Works. He also serves on the boards for local chambers of commerce, the Boy Scouts of America, Capital Area Council, Austin Partners in Education, and the E3 Alliance, as well as my favorite board, the Center for Public Policy and Political Studies. Please welcome Dr. Richard Rhodes.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, and welcome. We're so glad to have you here. You know, one of the things that we're so pleased about is this tremendous support that we get from the board of CPPPS. And so I want to say thank you to Rob as the chair of that board, and I would like to have all of the board members of the Center for Public Policy and Political Studies to please stand up. They do an awesome job. And when we think about what's important to Austin Community College, it is student engagement. And student engagement is how we allow students to achieve their dreams. When they're engaged, they stay in school, they do better in school, they work harder. And student engagement is what it's all about. And that's where CPPPS comes in, is to help provide that role for our students. And when we take a look at some of the things that they sponsor, is Texas Independence Day, Constitution Day, where we bring together students, hundreds of students from Austin Community College, and link them together with those who, either attorneys or judges throughout this service area, link them up and have a really fine discussion about the Constitution of the United States of America. That's what changes lives for students. Then we have DSSAs, where we celebrate history and tradition and culture that exists in this fine area. So thank you all to the board members for making that possible for our students. Now I have the privilege to introduce one of those products who is a student, not for much longer, but she has been the president of the Student Government Association at Austin Community College for this past year. And I just want to tell you, she has done an outstanding and awesome job. She has done such things. Let me tell you one thing that just sticks out in my mind. And that was to get donated books, because, one of the things that we see where students do not progress from pre-K on is if they don't have access to books in their homes. And so student government, under the direction of the person I'm going to introduce, made that a priority this year, and that was to get donated books that they could in turn turn over to Bookspring through the Brown Santa effort. And they had, I think, a goal of something like 5,000 books, because that was what they did the previous year. Well, come just before Christmas, they ended up with almost 10,000 books donated for that purpose. So Allison Judice has been the president of the Student Government Association for the past year. She's a political science student at ACC, and actually she's going to graduate this Thursday night. We think, finals are, still there. But she has just been an amazing person to champion the students' needs, efforts, and rights at Austin Community College. And please join me in welcoming Allison Judice. As she's coming up, I did want to recognize one other person who is recently elected to office, and that is Kabi Caputo was elected as the new city council member of Cedar Park.
I would also like to introduce James Spare. He is our Senator for Accessibility with SGA. He has done an amazing job this year, and he's going to help me with our presentation. And thank you, Dr. Rhodes, for that amazing intro. You made me blush. So good afternoon. The Center of Public Policy and Political Studies has played a vital role within ACC in building our future leaders. Allow us to provide you with a brief overview of some of the many spectacular events and opportunities CPPPS has provided our students. On this day in 1810, Father Miguel Hidalgo at the village of Dolores near I cannot speak Spanish, I am so sorry. Guanajuato, please forgive me, called for the end of the Spanish rule in Mexico. On September 16, 1825, the Republic of Mexico officially declared September 16th its National Independence Day. In Texas, 16 de Septiembre has been celebrated in San Antonio for more than 168 years. The Center for Public Policy and Political Studies produced a celebration every year at a Riverside campus commemorating its continuous tradition. On Tuesday, September 29th, students were invited out to the Palmer Event Center to explore their understanding of the many rights Americans hold. By increasing the students' knowledge of our country's foundation, future generations will continue to expand upon the legacy of this great nation as they lead their fellow citizens to excellence. Texas's independence, two words that invoke the feeling of pride in the heart of every Texan. They show strength, courage, and determination, which is what the Center for Public Policy and Political Studies helps to instill into the students here at ACC. From a multitude of distinguished guest speakers to exercises that teach students to create their own constitution, CPPPS continues to build the leaders of tomorrow. It was very interesting to hear the views on integrity and ethics in politics. Mayor Franklin delivered a very interesting account on her views in using strong ethics and personal convictions in politics while holding such a public office. Our student body was very fortunate to hear such personal account in a public situation. After hearing Mayor Franklin's account, we broke into small groups and talked about hypothetical situations and how we would handle these various situations using our own ethics. It was a very empowering exercise in which about 250 students were in attendance.
We share many common causes in Student Government Association, preparing tomorrow's leaders through academic programs and events. There are a few highlights of our accomplishments of the 2015-2016 school year. We started off with a visit from Representative Doggett, participated and spearheaded many voter registration events, resulting in the registration of all students. In December, we collected over 9,900 children's books for the Travis County Sheriff's Brown Santa program. We participated in the Region 4 conference for Texas Junior College Student Government Association, where one of our own members was elected to a regional board position of treasurer, as well as winning chapter of the year for the region. Many of our officers were able to network with many of our local representatives and other valuable figureheads at Texas Tribune Festival. As you can see, we have a lot of Riverbat pride. By the way, the picture with the chief of police was taken off his Twitter account later that day. All of these events played key elements in shaping the leaders of tomorrow. This semester, we held multiple Robert's Rules of Order workshops for the faculty, staff, and students. Many officers hit the campuses to meet their constituents and gather with campus advisory committees, has allowed our officers to advocate for our constituents. As Senator of Accessibility, I was able to tackle some accessibility issues that were brought before our organization. The Texas Junior College Student Government Association's 70-plus colleges met in Austin this year, just this past month. It was a 4-day conference full of workshops and networking during the time. We campaigned and won the position on the executive board, a parliamentarian. We also were able to get unanimously pass a resolution for a ADA committee to visit each site to ensure accessibility for everyone.
None of these events and experiences would have been possible without the outstanding and unwavering support of the Center for Public Policy and Political Studies. It is events like these that help grow leaders. We want to thank the Center for the opportunities they have given us over the past year with their events and support. It is through your great generosity students flourish in these great programs. As officers in student government representing over 40,000 students, we want to thank you for being here today and offering us a chance at becoming the leaders of tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you a good friend of mine and a member of our center board, Dr. Molly Beth Malcolm. Dr. Malcolm is the Vice President of External Affairs at Austin Community College, where she oversees the Center for Public Policy and Political Studies, Government and Community Relations, Elections, the Center for Nonprofit Studies, the Alumni Network, and the Student Government Association. She is also a special assistant to the President and CEO, Dr. Richard Rhodes. Please welcome Dr. Molly Beth Malcolm.
Now it's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. Glenn Hager is a sixth-generation Texan who has committed his career to public service. Throughout his life's work, first in the legislature and now as our state's controller of public accounts, he has relied on the values of hard work, honesty, and integrity as his foundation. And it is those same values that he and his wife, Dara, have worked to instill in their 3 children. Controller Hager is a 1993 graduate of Texas A&M University. I knew that was coming. There's some of us hook'ems around here. And a graduate of St. Mary's University, where he earned a Master of Arts and his law degree. At the University of Arkansas, he went on to earn his Master of Law degree. Prior to being elected controller in 2014, he served in the Texas House of Representatives and the Texas Senate, where he worked on a wide range of solutions to problems affecting Texans in areas such as public education, transportation, tax reform, government transparency, Second Amendment rights, water issues, and tort reform. As Texas Controller of Public Accounts, you know, he is the main money guy in Texas. And he serves as our treasurer, our check writer, our tax collector, a procurement officer, and revenue estimator. And he does have a bunch of other people to help him along the way, but he's the leader of all those important duties. And that's a really big job when you consider Texas is the world's 12th largest economy. Upon taking office, he reorganized the Comptroller's Office for more effective decision-making and reduced its size by cutting inefficient programs and transferring others that didn't fit into the core mission of the Comptroller's Office. When people think of government, they often gravitate toward the things you see in press conferences or what you hear during TV debates. But the real work of government, the hard work of government, often happens very far from those debates and from those TV spotlights and cameras. We at ACC are thrilled today to have Controller Hager here today to give us a peek at the inside of government, the side of government that works every day to keep Texas open for business. Please join me in welcoming Controller Glenn Hager.
Thank you, Dr. Malcolm, and it's great to be with you today. It's great to be here among so many students, and I've got faith that you are going to graduate. So, can't believe maybe. Come on. Yes, you will. I have faith you're going to get there. So, no, sorry, just picking on a little bit. But it's great to be here, and I tell you, as Controller of Public Accounts, you know, it's been an interesting time for me to come into service in this position, and as you heard, I wear many different hats. One of those hats is very front and center the day before a legislative session, when my job is to give the next forecast for how much money is coming in the Treasury. It's hard for the legislature, the 150 in the House, the 31 in the Senate, to put your next state budget together if they don't know how much money is coming in the Treasury. What do they have to work with? And if you can imagine, the day that I got elected in the office, oil prices was $74. Then the week before Christmas, when we put our revenue estimate together and put it to bed for presenting it here in in a couple weeks back in 2014, oil had gone down to $60 a barrel. Then the morning I was to give the revenue estimate, I remember having all of a sudden a few of my panicked staffers come in and said, "Oh my goodness, did you see the news?" I said, "Yeah, I saw the news." One of the investment firms had decided that, well, they're going to lower oil prices down to what they suspect for 2015 to be $39. And you go, well, why is that important? Because my revenue estimate had $64 a barrel in it. And they said, well, what are we going to do? And I said, it's real simple. I said, I've already run some quick math. I know I'm an Aggie, but I can add, subtract. I got this part down. If you look at the fiscal year for the state of Texas, starts on September 1 of a given year. We had already been through 5 months through the fiscal year. In the fiscal year, roughly, we had an average of $80 oil. So you average it out for the rest of that year, and magically we somehow came up to our number of $64. And one of the things, the reason I say that in part, because my job, it's about giving numbers. It's about giving facts. I was preparing for a speech that I have later in this week, and part of the theme is I was saying how in the controller's office, as long as you do your job and as long as you're transparent with what the numbers are and telling people, then it's pretty boring. I mean, it can be a boring place. That's my job, is to keep it boring, because if it's not, it's your money. I mean, think about it. If you go back, I'm the 36th controller of public accounts. Go back to Washington on the Brazos when we had our first controller of public accounts. It's pretty interesting because we've had some very colorful characters that have held this position over time. One of them, I don't know if you remember, he accidentally forgot that his bank account was not your bank account. That wasn't a good idea. And then also we had one in 1902, and I decided when I came into office a bunch of different decisions I had to make. And one of the most fundamental decisions I made is that I was never going to fire somebody. And you go, well, maybe, do you have a sensitive heart? You don't want to fire nobody? No, that's not it. I've hired and fired people before. But I decided not to because of Robert Love. And you go, well, what did Robert Love do? He fired somebody when he was controller. And they didn't like being fired, and they went home, they got their gun, they came back and shot him. And so the Constitution requires me to have a deputy controller, and so Mike Reisig, my deputy controller, if you ever work in the controller's office, Mike's going to do the firing. So you're going to go see him, not me. Tell you a couple things about Texas. In coming into this office, and especially last year, and talking about the economy, we were talking about the economy a little bit at the table here just a minute ago, and if you look across this state, with lower oil prices, the contraction in the oil and gas industry, and knowing that Texas is very blessed. We're an extremely blessed state with a lot of natural resources, and no one ever really foresaw this fracking boom that was going to occur in West Texas, was going to occur in the Eagle Ford Shale and other parts of the state of Texas. And when that hit, so many people began to say, Glenn, are we having a flashback to the 1980s? And it's really interesting. I was up talking to the Wall Street Journal and talking to Bloomberg News and a few others here the other week, and one of the points that I wanted to make to them is that, yes, in the last 12 months, we've lost 60,000 jobs in the oil industry. That's very significant. We've lost 40,000 jobs in the manufacturing industry. It's extremely significant. If you're one of those individuals, it's very significant to you. If you're one of those businesses that is on the brink of going bankrupt as a result of this contraction, it's very significant to you. If you are one of the governments in one of those 12 economic regions that's heavily dependent on those two industries for income sources, it's very serious. You see local governments that have been downgraded recently, not just only cities, counties, also junior colleges. And why? Because of that contraction. But if you take a step back and you look at Texas, it's amazing to know that Texas today is not the Texas of 1980s, in part, one, because of the diversity of this state. Two, it's a much stronger state economically. What do I mean? Put that in perspective. In the 1980s, we had on average about a $270 billion economy. That's a big economy. But take today, try 1.7 trillion. And as you heard, the 12th largest economy in the entire world. A few weeks ago, the ambassador from Australia was here in Austin for a variety of things, came to see me. We were talking for a little bit. And in my speeches, a lot of times I mention that as the 12th largest economy, we are bigger than the entire country's economy of Spain, bigger than the entire country to our southern border, Mexico. In a few years, we'll probably be bigger than number 11, which is Canada. And oh, by the way, we're also bigger than Australia's economy. And as he was talking about his role as ambassador, and he was also my counterpart, the CFO for the country of Australia, and talking about their procedures and processes and some of the things and his challenges when he was in that role. And every once in a while, I wanted to put my Texan hat on, which I don't really ever take off, but I try to be diplomatic in these roles. And I was trying really hard not to tell him, yeah, well, but you know our economy's bigger than yours, so what's your point? But I didn't do that. I just sat and smiled and was very respectful and polite. One part, the reason it is, and here's where I'm going, is if you look across the state of Texas, look at the Austin area, look at the Metroplex, San Antonio, El Paso. It's amazing here in the last year and a half when we've seen this contraction, the losses of jobs, a lot of areas that have seen significant downturns, that if you're in this area, you look around in Central Texas, you go, what oil and gas contraction? If you're in the Metroplex, you look around and go, what contraction? Texas had roughly 6 months of negative sales tax returns in compared to the same month the year before when we were last year, September, October, November, December, January, February. This year, March, we went back positive. April, we were still back positive. So in the last 3 months, the state has only seen really slightly less than 1% positive gains compared to the same 3 months a year ago. But right here in Austin, it's amazing to know that this area is 6% positive compared to those same 3 months a year ago. And why is that important? Because Austin, the Metroplex, San Antonio, also being El Paso and other areas, has helped prop up the state, and that shows the diversity of this state. A couple other points to know. Here in the capital region, it is amazing to know that between 2003 and 2013, that Texas as a state grew 20% in population. That's phenomenal. But this area, try 35%. And then also take this, in that same time period, the capital region, right here where we're at today, grew in jobs 30% over that same 10-year period. That's 6.5% higher than the national average. That's phenomenal. And part of that, as the Controller of Public Accounts and as the CFO, it's great to have that diversity, because I was mentioned earlier, we were talking, I said, well, how's your job? And I said, well, you should have been me come January of this year. Because January, I felt like that guy. Now, maybe you students, y'all have to go watch this movie. It's a real cool movie. It's an old movie, and it was in 1993. It was called Groundhog Day. And the guy woke up and did the same thing over and over again. That's how I felt in January, because all of a sudden people got off of Christmas, they got off of New Year's, and they looked around and they went, oh my goodness, we're having an oil downturn. We're in the low 30s to high $28 for West Texas Intermediate crude, and what is that going to do to the Treasury? So every day, all I did was talk to the media, talk to legislators. And it's amazing, though, after you do it for about 30, 45 days, day in and day out, you get better in messaging. And so that's where I'll transition here about value of education. What many of you don't know is, yes, you heard on the bio, I got my undergraduate degree at Texas A&M University. I just had to put that in there one more time. But before that, I was one of those students that looked up and decided, where am I going to go to school? I was accepted into A&M, but I thought, wow, a kid from a little town called Hockley, Texas, if you blink when you drive down Highway 290, you miss it. That's how big it is. You blink, you miss it. My family's blessed. We moved there in 1846. We've been there ever since. So a kid that grew up on a family farming operation, that seemed pretty scary. So what did I do? I decided not to go, and I stayed at home. And I went to one of your sister counterpart school, Lone Star, which at the time was Tomball Community College, just down the street. And it was one of the best decisions that I ever made. Why? Because I had 101, I had smaller classes, I had the ability to build up confidence that I can actually do this. My parents didn't go to college. Most of our family members never went to college. And so the community college system really significantly helps pave the way for what I think is helping the next generation become a significant number of movers and shakers and leaders in whatever area that they're going to ultimately serve in. I was going to talk a little bit about the values of education, and I think one of the values is it opens our eyes. And I think Malcolm Forbes said it the best, is education's purpose is to replace an empty mind with an open one. Because we think we know it all, but in reality, we really don't. And so just opening us up to realize that there is something else out there. Or I think also the value of education teaches us how to communicate. Communicating is extremely important. My wife and I, a lot of people ask us, said, y'all been married for almost 20 years. I mean, how often do y'all argue? 20 years, you got an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, an 8-year-old. And I go, reality, we don't. Well, one, she's a lawyer, so I'm not going to argue with her because I'm going to lose. And we met in law school, but she actually practices. I don't. But no, the reality is, I remember still when we were young, dating, and we just sat down, we went to dinner, and here were the cards on the table. And once we had that effective communication, everything else just moves away. And I think that's, if we do that in the world, it's a lot better. And I think the best saying when it comes to communication, Mark Twain said it best. If you don't have anything to say, then don't say it. And I think it also goes to say that there's a reason God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. You listen twice as much as you talk, and you can learn a significant amount. Education enables us to solve problems. And I think John Dewey said it best, is that education is not preparation for life. Rather, education is life itself. And part of that goes back to also being one of my favorite sayings, if you give an individual a fish, they can have a meal. But if you teach them how to fish, they can feed a family, and they can feed a community. Education can help us solve problems. And then one of the last things I wanted to touch on when it comes to education, it teaches us how to be civil and how we're supposed to interact with other people. And that is a key for any society to be able to continue to function. I have served in public office for quite a few years now, and as you heard, I served in the Texas House of Representatives. I've served in the state Senate. I was speaking to a bunch of high school kids last weekend, and one of them said, did you like serving in the House or did you like serving in the Senate? And I said, well, there's 150 members in the House and there's 31 in the Senate, so what do you think? Just from a mathematical standpoint. Well, no, really, because the House is a little bit rougher, a little bit tougher. The politics of it gets a little rougher at times, but I know people ask me all the time, say, Glenn, I'm sorry you had to go through that. Those people, at that town hall meeting, I'll have to apologize if it's somebody from a local community. They said, wow, I'm sorry you had to go through that. And I said, you think I haven't got tough skin over the years? If you serve in politics, you better be tough skin. But I think that Teddy Roosevelt said it in part best when we talked about civility and education and teaching people how to interact with one another, when he said to educate a person in mind and not morality is to educate a menace for society. And there's a lot of truth to that. And so part of my point to the students and part specifically to you is that education is a tremendous asset for life, but it's also how you use it to communicate to others. And what are you going to do with it because you've been empowered with a significant opportunity that others don't get to have in life. So it's what are you going to do with it? Are you going to contribute to society? Or are you going to be, unfortunately, as Teddy Roosevelt said, a menace to society? Now, the reason we're here today is building tomorrow's leaders in the annual fundraiser. And when I was asked to be here today, it was an absolute yes. And why? Because of the center's mission. Public policy and public service, there is nothing higher calling. And the problem is you better be a little thick-skinned. You're not going to get paid the most rewarded out of jobs out in the workforce, but it's a significant mission, and someone needs to be able to try to help move society continuing in a direction. As I looked at my 3 kids this weekend, I firmly believe that a lot of the challenges, the reason that I ran for office originally back in 2002, a lot of those challenges still exist today, and they'll continue to exist in the future. We have challenges, but when I think about trying to tackle those challenges, at least from my vantage point, it's not necessarily how those challenges impact me, but how they impact them and future generations. And this center and the education is helping us create tomorrow's leaders here in Texas. Texas is a really bright, shining spot. Last weekend, as I told some of the students, I guess I slipped up and I said that, did I tell you that we're the 12th largest economy in the world? And one of the little girls, she goes, yeah, about 10 times. And then I had another one of the kids raised her hand. I was engaging them into the conversation. I said, so tell me, what about you? What did you learn today? What did you learn today? So, what did you learn today, and what do you want to do in life? So I was engaging them, and some of them were trying to hide their heads on the desk and not be asked questions. And so in engaging them, and one of them said, she looked at me, and I said, what's your question? And she said, why are you so excited to be a Texan? And I said, and you're not? And so, you know, in part, I'm excited to be a Texan because, one, we have a government that only meets 140 days every 2 years. That's got to be something to be excited about. But also the fact is that Texas is a really bright, shining spot. Think about this. I told you how the Central Texas area has led when it comes to population increase and job increase. If you look at this state, it's amazing that every single day when you wake up, and I don't have the most latest census numbers, so obviously it's a little bit lower than it was a year plus ago, but on average, every day when you woke up, there were 600 more people that called Texas home. If this room was Texas, there'd be 600 more people in this room every day just based on natural growth. And then you take into account the people that move out and the people that move in. And every day, the people that moved in was another 650 people a day. And you got to ask the question, why? And to me, the answer is simple. It's the same reason my family left Darmstadt, Germany back in the late 1840s, got on a boat, went all the way across the ocean and landed in Galveston, Texas, and wondered, what are we going to do now? The same reason, for an economic opportunity for them and for future generations. That's what Texas represents for a lot of people. The question is, with a youthful workforce and people that want to come here, are we going to have an educated society that makes a difference in those future years? And I think ACC and the center is making a difference. And that's why when I was asked, will you be here? Absolutely. So it's good to be with you, good to see you. And I want to say one more time, thank you to the sponsors for sponsoring today's fundraiser. Because if it wasn't for you, those 130 plus interns that have had an opportunity to play a role in government and learn what it's like to be a civil servant would not have occurred. If it wasn't for the fundraiser here today and your sponsorships, it wouldn't be all the good programs that are operating and running where we're educating tomorrow's leaders and tomorrow's workforce. So I want to say thank you for your sponsorship. Thank you for your support of the center. It's good to be with you, and God bless you. Thank you.
Comptroller Hager, as a token of our gratitude for you coming out tonight, we have a small gift for you.
Great. I
to remind you of
appreciate
our
that very
event.
much.
And, you know, Texas is a bright and shiny spot, and you're a bright and shiny leader.
Thanks.
Thank you for your
Great
service.
to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. Okay.
The inbox.
I could tell there was something in the box. Thank you.
It's good. Well, when you think about our, we're going to give out some awards today. It's our Building Tomorrow's Leaders Awards that we give out. And, you know, you can look at it as people who put into an effort to build into our students, but I think it's really more of a pathway to provide them an opportunity to shine. Our students are great. They're tremendous people. We learn something from them when we work with them and give them a chance to be successful by allowing them opportunities. And we have some awards to give to a few honorees who have done just that. They provided mentorship, they provided leadership, they provided a pathway for those students to be engaged in public service, and we want to thank them by giving them this award. You know, I've got to say something that I was at a internship program award recently that we have, and a student quoted Augustus saying, "The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it, you just have to set it free." And it just reminded me of how bright and how wonderful our students are, and how much we can learn from them, and how much insight they have when we interact with them. And so I want to introduce to you someone who has done just that. He's built into the lives of our students. His name is Mark Washington. Mark Washington currently serves as acting assistant manager for the city of Austin. In his role, Mr. Washington oversees the Austin Convention Center, fleet services, communications and technology, human resources and labor relations, building services, telecommunications, and regulatory affairs. He also serves as the staff liaison for the city auditor and the city convention and visitor bureau's oversight. Mr. Washington? Thank you, Mark. Got it, thanks. Thank you for your service, sir. I got a pleasure. Good job. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Our next honoree is Paul Turner. Mr. Turner is a 40-year veteran of Austin Independent School District. He joined the district in 1973 as an intern and worked his way up through the ranks on the academic side. That may be in part what motivates his commitment to this program, and we truly appreciate it. First, as special assistant principal at Dobie Middle School, then principal there at Lanier High School. In 1993, he moved into central administration, fulfilling a variety of planning and financial roles until 2003, where he was appointed director of bond execution and development. He served as the administration's point person for the citizens advisory groups like the Boundary Advisory Committee, the Citizens Bond Advisory Committee, and the Community Bond Oversight Committee. He has been an invaluable centerpiece and supporter in bringing our interns to AISD, and on occasion, some have been known to be hired permanently into their organization. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Paul Turner. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll let you do the next two. Let's see. Bear with me 1 second. Our next recipient is Mr. Robert Angst. Robert has built his career specializing in project management, especially troubled projects. That never happens. Which led to an increasing leadership roles and expertise in change management. His broad experience in education facilities, public works, design and construction led him to work with Austin Independent School District as the Executive Director of Construction Management. He currently manages a staff of approximately 50 who are executing a $500 million bond, campus support projects, in the planning of future bond work. Robert started working with our internship program this year at AISD. However, with his leadership, the program has already expanded. We are looking forward to working with him for years to come to build bigger and stronger relationships with AISD for our internship program. Please welcome Robert Hanks. Our final recipient is not here, and he's not able to receive the award, but it's Dr. Ed Mullen. Dr. Ed Mullen has served numerous leadership positions over his career. He's a retired Army officer and Vietnam War veteran who has devoted much of his post-military life to education. He has been a government professor and administrator at ACC campuses since 1976. And we would like to thank him for his service and give him this award when we see him again. At this time, I'd like to thank Mr. Peck Young. He is the Center's Executive Director. I'd like to allow him the opportunity to say a few remarks. Close this out.
It is always my honor and pleasure to close these events. I'll do it briefly because I know it's getting late and all of y'all have work to do. I want to thank all of our sponsors for their generosity and for them being here today with us. It is our honor to have your support and to have your participation. What we are able to do for the students would not be possible without your help and cooperation. I appreciate the ones that are new, and I also deeply appreciate those of you that have been with us, like the folks at Flintco who have generously been with us since the center started. Your cooperation and your support is fundamental to what our mission is. I want to thank my board members, especially my chair who has worked so hard to make this event possible, and to my staff and to the students who helped us today that made this specific event the success I think you all agree with it being. I want to also specifically recognize Keisha Gray, our coordinator, for all she's done, and I'd ask you all to give her a round of applause. It's my pleasure to be the executive director of this, not only to work with those of you that are here, but most importantly to work with our students. You saw again today with the head of our student government the kind of young people that we have at ACC and what they can achieve. It has been our pleasure at the center to be working with student government the last year and a half, but we've worked with other student groups, including our own, for some time, and it is remarkable to us the kind of people that come through this institution. Their ability, their enthusiasm, their intelligence, it is absolutely rewarding and stimulating to see what potential they have, what dreams they have, and when you give them a challenge, what they can accomplish. It is because of you we have the ability to give them things to do that bring out the best in them and the best in and to show them what they can be and what they should be and what is possible for them in the future. So again, thank you for your help, and we look forward to seeing you next year.